The question to you is not only about the international cooperation, but also is about the deforestation and paying for this deforestation. What each one of you in your states and what have you done and what can you share with us? I'm going to be attentive to time. You're going to have 4 minutes so that we can have other people speaking. Please, Secretary Paula. Good morning, everyone. The state of Acre is updating PPCDQ in an arrangement where we took everything that didn't work in the old plan we had, because we had a very bold goal in the previous plan, reducing 80% of the deforestation. And when we started putting that into practice, we saw that we had some challenges that we had to take, and that goal was intangible at the time. So in this new review of the PPCDQ in Acre, the PPCDQ is the state plan for the prevention and fight against deforestation and the forest fires in Amazon. We are approaching all of the developments of the state and the civil society. We could see that we could not move forward without mapping all of the action and all the levels of the public administration. We could see that the highest levels of deforestation are in the federal areas. But at the end of the day, those who pay for the bills are the states. So it was fair to invite those bodies to take part in this responsibility as well. So this new arrangement is a new institutional arrangement, bringing goals which are more tangible. And this is not something that we cannot achieve, because we could have a very elaborate plan, but with the fictitious goals. Today, we have a more tangible plan in the state. And what changed for one plan to another was this set of massive efforts inviting these other bodies like ICMBio, IBAMA, the state bodies, the supervision bodies from the state, with the supervision bodies from the municipalities, universities, the civil society organizations, the technical bodies of the indigenous peoples, to contribute in this elaboration, having their own goals to be fulfilled. What we saw as something that didn't work in the previous plan that we want to implement in this plan was a monitoring system in all of the secretariats. And how is this going to work? Today, the tools are distributed among the secretariats. My secretariat has a plan for fighting against the deforestation and forest fires. And that might not be so important for the education secretariat, for example. Now we want to implement a tool that is transversal to all of the themes. It goes through public health, it goes through public security. We have a lot of problems fighting against the organized crime. It goes through education. So it is transversal, as I said, to all of the aspects. This is the new view that we're trying to implement to our state. Creating a monitoring system that is going to monitor these actions in all secretariats with the correlate goals to PPCDQ. We took what didn't work in the plan that was being implemented, and we added some aspects. And I believe at the end of this month, we're going to present this new plan, and next year we're going to put into practice this new modeling of the plan that we're going to implement in Acre. Thank you very much, Secretary. This is a big challenge. The agenda of environment has to be transversal to education, health, and agriculture as well. It's very important that you are putting this into practice. I would like to greet Secretary Joel from Amapá. Thank you very much for coming. Secretary Maureen, what else can you detail to us for the state of Mato Grosso? Good morning, everyone. Due to the short amount of time, I'm going to greet the colleagues at the round table and everyone who's here. As presented by our Governor Mauro Mendes, we're searching for an efficient state, the state that is efficient in command and control and of the other policies that aims at legal production in the state of Mato Grosso. Fighting against deforestation is within our state plan. Every year, we improve the strategy, adding a new element that will bring us more efficiency. The pillars of the state of Mato Grosso are the efficiency of environmental legality. We focus on environmental registration. I have to say that we started the current administration in 2019 with 5% of legal production, and at the end of 2019, 38% of the production in the forest was legal. So we could see that illegality decreased in the state. When we assess legality in properties that already are registered in the CAR, besides command and control, as Secretary Taveira mentioned, in the Forum of Secretaries of the Amazon, we want to have a sustainable production because this is what is going to take us to a new moment in the Amazon. It is always within our discussions. Besides only applying penalties to offenders, we focus on the end of this process of accountability. At the end of 2022, now in November, we are also focusing on the compensation of these processes. We are punishing, we are focusing on command and control, control of deforestation, extinguishing the illegal deforestation is set of a part of actions. We have to show a more efficient state to the citizens, and that is what the state of Mato Grosso has been focusing on. You can pass the floor to Secretary Marli. You talked about effectiveness, legality, and there's nothing better than having technology in favor of that. Of course, especially in the size of Mato Grosso. For Tocantins, Secretary Marlene, how have you seen the policies that you have launched, especially the use of the carbon credit, Secretary Marlene? I would like to greet everyone who is here, especially on behalf of the governor of Tocantins. Tocantins is inspired by Mato Grosso. We have had an exchange program with the Environmental Secretariat of Mato Grosso. We have PPCDIF prevention plan and plan of fighting deforestation. That was a plan updated in 2021. The first area is the area of prevention. Without prevention, we cannot reach this agenda. Prevention includes the strengthened rural extension. Our expert is going to orient about licensing. There's also an agenda of bioeconomy, an agenda of environmental education, and an agenda of investment in research. If we don't have an alignment with research for the deforestation to be reduced, and there is an intensiveness in agricultural production, we don't have a reduction in deforestation only with command and control. Another area of our prevention plan is command and control itself. Our command and control is a copy of Mato Grosso's. We have an alert system. This alert system from February on notified 30,000 rural producers that already deforested, already caused forest fires without the proper authorization and licenses. Our command and control system is aligned to a remote system that is very similar to Mato Grosso's system. And when necessary, our supervisors are going to do field visits. We have a partnership to the environmental body and the police forces. And the third area is fighting against deforestation itself. When the forest fire already started, we have a support network in the 139 municipalities with local fire brigades. We invest in these fire brigades and we compensate them with payments per environmental services. Our payment for environmental services is the ecological ICMS. We distribute 13% from the 25% of taxes to the municipalities. And the municipalities, when they prove that they have provided environmental services, they receive 13% of those taxes. And the last area is monitoring with satellite images and the follow-up of which municipalities are deforesting the most. Of course, there is investment behind this. We have invested 72 million reais. And how are we going to invest those 72 million reais? In a state where our economy is weak. We need this money for education, for health. We're going to achieve this investment with the transaction of carbon credits through our public call with the company Mercuria that is going to bring us financial investment. If we don't have this kind of money, the governor of the state is not going to stop investing in public works, education, health. This is our big challenge. This is what I wanted to mention on the strategy of Tocantins. Thank you very much. Thank you, Secretary. It's very important to talk about the reality of public administration. You talked about some very important things about the experts, research and development, and how you're going to pay for the bills with the carbon credits. And now, passing the floor to Secretary Joel from Amapá. This state has a lot of potential. It's in the avant-garde of the economy. And it has a very important geographical status. What can you tell us about the plan against deforestation and forest fires? Good morning, Governor Mauro Mendes. Amapá has a singular geographical status in the state of Amazonas. We have updated our plan this year with the participation of the civil society. It's called Plan of Prevention of Forest Fires and Deforestation. It has 3 areas, one of command and control, one of land regularization, and one of green economy. We took very strong efforts in the state for the update of our geodesic database and to update our maps in partnership with the Army. We invested 23 million reais with the help of the National Development Bank. And we are concluding our economic social database that is going to give us an overview on which strategy we should adopt to foster the development of 22% of white areas. These white areas are flooded zones, forests, cerrados. We still have difficulties in command and control actions that still need to be perfected, and they are more and more important because we have suffered a few threats of illegal mining. In the land and environmental regularization area, the state of Amapá has 72% of its area made up of protected reserves, and part of the remaining area belongs to the federal government. After many years, we were finally able to have a meeting with the federal government to transfer the federal areas to the state of Amapá. We have the largest park of rainforests in the world with over 3 million hectares. The federal areas that were transferred to the state now correspond to 2 national parks. In this sense, recently we signed a memorandum with the Ministry of Environment and with the UNDP on the project Floresta Mais. And this plan will be one of the instruments that we will follow so that the people can develop their activities in those areas with the licenses and with the legal security. We also have a program of integrated development that will encompass the carbon credits. And now we can awaken to the need to fund those activities.
So, as it was reminded by the Secretary, we were invading the Amazon in the 70s not to give it in, but now we are trying to recover it. That's the message we wanted to convey. Thank you, Secretary Joel. I'd like to ask a round of applause to the secretaries, and I'm going to call other secretaries, Secretary Taviro from the state of Amazonas, and Secretary Mauro from Pará, please.
Para concluir essa agenda dos secretários, depois chamar nossos especialistas, ele está vindo.
And the experts as well.
As organizações da sociedade civil. E é muito importante não só cada estado apresentar,
and it's very important for the different states to present. You must have noticed that the plans are integrated somehow. They are similar because they follow the national plan for fighting deforestation. So basically, we want to listen from you, secretaries, how each state is considering the plan to fight the deforestation, and if you had results to share with us here. Taveira, please. Thank you, Victor. I'm going to talk about our plan. The state of Amazonas has received its plan for fighting and prevention of deforestation and fires, and that was outdated. So the first initiative was to update the plan to redirect the strategies. And as I've mentioned before, we came from 3 years of growth in terms of deforestation. And before the curve increased in the last 4 years, what was necessary was to update, because we understood that deforestation drivers were not the classic ones that we had 10 years ago. That's why I invested in the four axes. One was command and control, the other was land and environmental regulation, and then science and innovation and bioeconomy, and the axis of new economies for rural development. So we've worked hard, especially within our conservation units and within the areas of direct responsibility in the state, and we had the support of the federal government and the federal areas with the greatest pressure that are the settlement areas due to this historical context. And after data was available, we could identify by comparing with the last year that only in the state areas and state conservation units, we had a reduction in 30% of deforestation. So if we take only the state conservation units, which mean 12% of the state of Amazonas, we had a reduction of 44% when we compare to the same period last year. That shows that our problem is in what the integrated plan foresees. The combat in the areas with the greatest pressure, where there's a predominance of federal lands and federal conservation units, and also mapping void. This is a great challenge because almost 30% of the state has a void in terms of map, and the settlement areas, because we are not able to advance in the main driver of the illegal activity, that is the land regulation. So all the states that are not able to advance in permits, licensing, regulation, that have this advancement of the illegal settlements, when you take these people from traditional settlements for them to invade new areas, you have this problem of land regulation. I see Muni, and the greatest moment to improve our rural register is engaging land regulation, as the cattle raising activity as well is connected to that. So the main focus of our plan in the state of the Amazon is to increase the monitoring of deforestation, and at the same time this decentralizing the environmental policy in the state, so that the legal activities are encompassing more and more people, so that we can bring solutions for sustainable development. Just to make it clear, is deforestation growing or diminishing? In the state of Amazonas, it increased 22%, but it's concentrated. If you dissociate the state lands and the conservation units from the state, we had a reduction in 30%. And in conservation units that are 12% of the territory, the reduction was 44%. So the effectiveness of the state concerning the protection and bioeconomy uh, is leading deforestation. Yes, we had 52 million reais invested in this more green Amazonas, and also with different activities such as management, tourism, environmental education, recovery of degraded areas with agriculture and forest systems, and with technical support to improve the rural register. And also the governor of the state of Amazonas has increased the permits for traditional communities that enable the access to retirement and social welfare. So I have no doubt that the greatest mechanism to fight deforestation uh, is to improve the generation of income for the population in these communities. With no increase of income and with no compatible activities for the forest, we are going to go nowhere. You know well, command and control. It's expensive. While you have money, you're able to fight deforestation. But when you face an economic crisis and you don't have structure, you're not solving the problem. It's under the rug. Perfect. Let's move to another state as big as the state of Amazonas with great challenges. Secretary Mauro, how is Pará coming to this COP and considering the fight of deforestation and fires? Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the invitation. Pará doesn't have a plan, a traditional plan. We have the sectorial plan for the use of forest within the the global plans on climate change. Pará has a plan now that has goals for the reduction of greenhouse emissions, and we don't have goals for illegal deforestation because we must eliminate completely the illegal deforestation, so we don't have a goal for reducing deforestation, and we have restoration goals as well as a program called Sustainable Territories to incentivize the sustainable and productive change. We have this guarantor fund. The representative of the Development Bank of Brazil is thinking about this its grantor fund, and we have that in Pará for middle and small producers up to 100,000 reais. We have a program of land regulation. We have this new uh, regulation for land, and the president of ITERPA is here. So in the territory of Pará, in our jurisdiction, we have issued 13,000 deeds. So we have this program for land regulation that has served thousands of people. We had an analysis capacity of 800 uh, registers per year, and now we can analyze 3,000 register per month. We are updating our systems. We are going to present our alpha version of the Rural Register 2.0. And we are going to have traceability. 80% of the basis of the rural register in the state of Pará doesn't have don't have anymore this deforestation. So we must use robots to clean the database to remove those who didn't practice any illegal activity so that we can focus on these 5,000 properties which are responsible for more than 50% of deforestation in the state of Pará. So the state is grooming itself for this these activities in the next year as well. In our jurisdiction, that was an increase in deforestation of 52%. So from 19 to 20, we had a reduction of 17% of the rates compared to the previous years. And from 21 to 22, we had a reduction of 17%. We are still the leaders of deforestation in the Amazon with high rates, but our curve is descendant until this year that we have a trend of 11% diminishment until we had the events of June, July, and August, and September and October. that we had a fall, but until September there was a boom in deforestation and fires in the Amazon, showing that first, we are not doing anything alone. We need cooperation and we need coordination. Coordination. We don't need to centralize anything. We need a coordination from the federal government concerning the fight against deforestation so that we can better management the efforts. And we need equipment. Those countries and financial institutions, NGOs were listening to me. We need equipment. What kind of equipment? Transportation equipment such as helicopters, planes, airplanes which were prepared to fight fire. We need brigade equipment. Governor Helder has defended this regional force against deforestation, in which we could have personnel and equipment to fight deforestation. And we need resources. There have been investments of the Petrobras Fund coming from the car wash operation or not, with resources that were internalized that came to our state. In the moment of pandemic, that was the salvation of the states. We were able, with the resources and the decision of the Justice Alexandre de Moraes, to have the force to fight deforestation and increase the land regulation and increase our ability of issuing licenses and deeds. So one thing that happened in the pandemic was the diminishing of the economic activity in Brazil, the increase of expenses in healthcare, but we didn't have the diminishment of deforestation. The activity of deforestation didn't diminish, but we didn't have in the federal legislation this exception that this deforestation fight was something essential for us to hire people or dispense uh, public bids to fight the deforestation. So if there's a climate emergency and it must be recognized for the survival of the humanity, this urgency must be reflected in the norms. Fighting deforestation and even the instruments for prevention, such as the bioeconomy programs and incentive of the productive chains, they must be an exception within the norm. Thank you so much, Secretary Mauro. So as we say in the Amazon, there's no home office for deforestation. They keep moving, right? So I'd like to thank all the secretaries. I'd like to congratulate you again. And now we have the part of the experts. I'd like to invite Ilona from the Igarapé Institute, Virgílio Viana, General Superintendent of Sustainable Amazon, José Carlos from IBA, and Eugênio Pantoja from IPAM. If you see Pantoja, please call him. José Carlos. And Eugênio is coming.
E aí a tarefa agora com vocês da sociedade civil é a gente
So the task now with the civil society is not only to reflect and bring solutions, each one of you in your niche and expertise points. I'd like to start with Ilona. Ilona, we talked about the protection against deforestation and fires, and a great deal of deforestation is illegal. It has to do with public security. So how is Igarapé and you bringing intelligence to support city halls and the federal government? You have 4 minutes. It's a great pleasure to talk to you here. After the governors and the secretaries, we are willing to integrate even more. I was talking to the Secretary Mauro, and I told him that to fulfill the goals, you should bring the public safety colleague, the economic development colleague, and social development colleague, because this priority must be established in all the secretaries, with all the secretaries. We have been strengthening the rule of law to reduce deforestation in this ecosystem of environmental crimes so that we can enable the sustainable development. I agree that command and control only is not enough. We will reduce and then we are going to return the growth, and we must attract the responsible capital in the long term. So we must have everything. It's a policy from the states. So here in the House of the Legal Amazon Consortium, we must use this possibility of having this autarky and this policy that is coordinated with the states and the federal government so that we can improve. Unfortunately, we don't have a good reputation right now. We are trying to get it back. We need that once and for all, we are a country that is attracting investments. So we have launched this agenda that is called Govern Not to Give It In, and we have access for governance, speaking about human resources, logistics, and structuring access to fight environmental crime and organized crime that unfortunately became even more complex, gaining more space. So the reduction in deforestation in the past is very different from now. So coordination is key. And I wanted to bring other points as well concerning the discourses of the governor and secretaries. And this transition for this green economy is not an if, it's the only chance we have as a country to be back in the map and to have our homework to leave a country for the next generations. So besides thinking on how we enable public funds from the National Development Bank, and the responsible capital is here. The banks, the investments are here. They are trying to invest. We have a lot of money around the world, but it's a matter of who is guaranteeing that we have social environmental indicators and governments indicators that we can trust, that will not give me a bad rap.
Muito parceiro
At
aqui.
the Igarapé Institute, we see the public security as a partnership, as a partner of the economic development. We see economic incentives for as partners of the territorial development. We're going to launch a territorial technique for the investors. These instruments are not used by the states to gain partners in the complex goals that you will have to deliver. So we're having a public security discussion because we believe that command and control and attraction of responsible capital for the population is the only way out for us to take this turn. And our country must count on the civil society that is trying to take a seat at the table. I think we now should return to the dialogue and work very strongly, and the urgency is strong. This is the time for us to act. Thank you very much, Ilona. Brazil has worked on deforestation a while ago. Unfortunately, narco trafficking is increasing. And how do you see the civil society supporting the fight against deforestation a lot stronger than 10 to 15 years ago, and how we can do this a lot faster? because this is the point of no return. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to greet everyone on behalf of Taveira, the president of the Secretaries Forum of the Amazon. I think this roundtable is very symbolic. We have representatives of the civil society who are working with the states. This moment has a lot of symbolisms. There is the symbolism of the civil society working with the states. There is the symbolism of the political power of the states having a space like this, having the speech of the governors and the secretaries. There is a very strong symbolism, as Renana said. Brazil is returning to the international scenario. The President Lula was elected, and he's going to bring a new narrative to the Amazon. He will talk to several actors in the international cooperation who are very interested in returning the partnership to Brazil. There is a new hope towards international cooperation. I believe that we have another important topic, which is cooperation in concrete actions. I would like to make a link with Secretary Mauro's speech on the need for relevant infrastructure on means for support, like a helicopter in the Amazon. We shouldn't have one helicopter. We should have a fleet of 100 helicopters. Eduardo mentioned the situation of Boca do Acre. How can he leave and go to Boca do Acre? There are a logistical issue. We shouldn't use the firefighting squad. We should have a fleet of planes and helicopters to do a true fighting against fires. I believe this was represented by the consortium in a set of detailed proposals, and that showed the international cooperation a very strong path. I would like to share with you a piece of data that will be made official in the next few weeks, the cooperation with Germany, the Forest Fund that will support with 180 million, 2 states of the Amazon. It will be announced by the German government. That is a relevant piece of data. We will also have, with this support by Germany, the support of France, the United Kingdom, and France and the United Kingdom. I would like to finish here by saying that it is important to have metrics. I saw some very exciting speeches by the secretaries, and I would like to talk about GCF, not only the consortium of the governors, the task force of the governors for the climate is very exciting. The metrics that was mentioned by Mato Grosso is very interesting. Secretary Maoni talked about the percentage of illegal deforestation. This is a metrics that we all should have. With this, I would like to illustrate the need for us to have clear metrics regarding these agendas, for us to measure how much each state is advancing. And I would like to mention the exchange and cooperation that I saw in the speeches of the secretaries and governors. The Secretary of Tocantins was mentioning that she learned a lot with the cooperation that they had with Mato Grosso. In some topics, they had relevant advances that could improve the management of Tocantins, and that creates a very optimistic scenario. As Pope Francis says, we have the scientific basis to be optimistic, and we have the moral obligation to be hopeful. I think this event lightens up the hope, the flame of hope. You talked about not only financial mechanisms, but also an integrated agenda to fight these challenges in the Amazon. I'll pass the floor. This is the Amazon. Figuratively, this is the embassy of Amazon. Now I'll pass the floor to José Carlos from IPAM. In the view of IPAM, how do you see, José Carlos, the need for the states to interact with organizations like IPAM in the qualification of their technicians? Thank you very much. Good morning, almost good afternoon to everyone. It's very exciting to be in this panel. I've watched most of the sessions before us. I'm not going to repeat what my colleague said. I know Eugênio is going to have an important message to give you. I would like to introduce myself, José Carlos Fonseca Jr. I'm the Executive Director of IPAM, but I'm also a co-facilitator of the Coalition Brazil Climate, Forests, and Agriculture, which is a collective and a platform of dialogues that gathers over 340 associates, an expressive representation of the society, the academia, the private sector, and the financial sector that for over 7 years has debated about the approval of the Forest Code in the Brazilian Congress. We have understood that it was necessary to sit around a table, even those who think differently and who came from different backgrounds, to bring complementary perspectives. And respectfully, we have built convergences on top of a plurality of different mindsets. The coalition has developed a very promising work of advocacy and recommendations. Yesterday, we have disclosed the result of months of works of our committees with recommendations to our new governors in this new cycle that will start. Yesterday, we delivered to the members of the transition team of the Lula government our document. I was talking to Laura, the executive of the coalition, that one of our priorities now should be a more intensive dialogue with the state government. We have some reflections. We have had some reflections, recommendation, and studies, and we want to share that with the governments. Our idea is to have the roadshow with the new governors, and I would like to congratulate the governors of the Legal Amazon Consortium. I have followed their work since COP25 in Madrid during that difficult time when we had the first steps of the consortium of the Legal Amazon at a COP, at an international space. And from then on, that flourished and that became robust work. And here we have the capacity not only to talk to Brazil, but to show to the world what needs to be done and what is being done. The previous panel with the secretaries of Amazonas and Pará was very clarifying, and it showed great challenges, but also great accomplishments that depend on resources and partnerships. So here I'm speaking on behalf of the coalition and on behalf of the Brazilian society that needs to be aligned with the Amazon. The former minister, Isabella Teixeira, said that this puts us in the international agenda. Since the beginning of my career, I saw Brazil reach rock bottom in terms of its international image. In the 1980s, I saw Brazil doing really badly in its international image. with the murder of Chico Mendes, and it caused a very bad international image among the society and the political world, and we started rebuilding our image. After that, we became a leader, especially after Rio 92. We helped rebuilding our climate image. The science already predicted this climate emergency, the climate emergency of our current generations and the weight on our future generations. So what we're doing today is we're making history so that 30 years from now, we can see that we made this inflection in the right time so that we could say that we faced the challenges when we needed to. Thank you very much, Mr. José Carlos. The coalition and those institutions have helped a lot the Amazon and Brazil. Now I'll pass the floor to Pantoja from IPAM. In the consortium as a whole, Pantoja, what is your view in terms of the reconstruction? What is IPAM's view and what is your view for the states of the Amazon? First of all, I would like to thank you for the invitation, and I would like to greet the roundtable. I would like to thank the consortium. Thank you, Taveira. Thank you, Secretary Raíza. Thank you for inviting IPAM. I think I can summarize this invitation in one word: resilience. This represents the resilience of Brazil and the Amazon. Regardless of the different views on politics, this was a challenging period for each one of us. The pandemic and the increase in deforestation, and I think this is a key moment. We are at a crossroads. We have no time to waste, as Antonio Gutierrez said. Antonio Gutierrez is the highest representative of the UN on climate. This moment, Virgílio, marks the 50th anniversary of the Stockholm Conference and the 30th anniversary of Rio 92. 2022 is an exquisite moment for us to rethink the path of the development of the planet. And the Amazon is paramount for the development of the humankind. I remember that we took part in Paris conference where each state took a commitment. And each state made a presentation. We had the Amazon Day, which was one day of Amazon, and now it transformed into a huge space like this. And I think Amazon is going to take the whole conference. Amazon is the world. But bringing it back to our agenda, I would like to congratulate the consortium for having the initiative and the responsibility of taking a protagonist role in facing deforestation, facing illegal mining, discussing openly and clearly the invasion of indigenous lands. Regardless of the different political biases, we made this decision. And throughout this time, we built this plan with the different perspectives. Of course, we have different challenges of restructuring, as the Secretary said, the restructuring of the bodies, the training of the personnel, but I wanted to put this into a strategic perspective. First, we're going to restructure the policies of the Amazon. And first of all, I want the states not to lose their role in this new reality that we have. The second point is the territorial plans. Throughout the last few years, we see that the states that have their territorial planning very well defined are able to implement their public policies with a very practical outlook. The third point in that we learned in the last few years is that this governance has to be strengthened so that the government policies cannot intervene in the state actions. It is clear that reducing the deforestation in the Amazon and putting the Amazon in the center of the discussion is something that has to be in the center of the Brazilian state. I would like to make a reference also to command and control. Everybody says the command and control is not the only thing that can work. We should strengthen the participation of the civil society and the indigenous people and the original peoples, not only the indigenous people, but the quilombola communities. These set of actions, if combined with the process of development, we should have then the basic set of actions already built by the consortium of governors to be presented in this new moment of government. And we expect to be consolidated in the next 4 years as metrics, with very clear metrics to reduce the deforestation and to with the improvement of life quality, with the reduction of violence in the forest, which is happening now in the forest, not only in the cities. This is what we expect. This is the new moments that we have in COP 27. In the next few years, I hope that we are here to celebrate the improvement of people's life quality and the eradication of illegal mining and the eradication of these crimes that happen in the Amazon. I would like to place IPAM at the disposal of all of the governors. I hope that we can rebuild history starting in 2023.
While our moderator is breathing to wrap up, I'd like to greet André Guimarães, our General Director, who must be watching, and a great hug for our coalition colleague at IPA. So according to Pantoja, the protagonism of the state was conquered in the last 5 years, and we should maintain this protagonism with the networks of donors, civil society, and institutions. So we have hope ahead. We have a lot of work to do. We have human and technological resources. Now it's a matter of coordinating and understanding priorities. There are lives at stake, lives in the ground, and we see that in the territory. We have to keep discussing, but we have to start working in the territory. I'd like to thank the panel members and this consortium space and all of you who have been with us until the end. Thank you so much and have a great COP.